school system that neither have the means or the ability to do
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
we get into policy. Why wasn't this available? Why wasn't it made a priority? And I think that's partly what the teachers were pushing back on. They said, you've been doing this for a couple of years, and we're still short on PPE, and we're still short on cleaning supplies, and you got rid of a whole bunch of the janitors and all that kind of stuff, and we don't have a nurse in every school, and we've been asking about this stuff for years, and I think that's partly where the anger bubbled over, because this becomes a policy, and also with the money that we decided to distribute, how much went into education, how much went into supplying education. We like to talk about how schools should be open, and and we're dealing with the effects of kids being away from school. But I think sometimes we think of the problems just as middle class people. And there's a lot of folks who don't have the means or the ability to do some of these things.
True that.
And we need to, and as a country, we have to decide if it's worthwhile to provide that and to teach and to instruct and help people, learn how to use these products.
Well,
Cal, I want to get back to Dan's. I'm sorry, you were going to say something? I wanted to mention, get back to Dan's earlier point. He was talking about science, which I, by the way, totally agree with on there. Science is not perfect. It is a knowledge process, and anything that we became more knowledgeable from time occurred over time. It occurred with trial and error. Yes, mistakes were made. We could have done the woulda, coulda, shoulda sort of thing, but that is the best way to do it. We're going to learn from the mistakes, or we could have done it better, or whatever, or we learn new things that we didn't know before. And that's how knowledge works, just like it does in everything that we learn over time, and if we want to sit there and look back, remember the old days, 2-3 years ago or whatever, we didn't know nothing about this thing. Of course, the thing, COVID didn't exist back then, but that's how knowledge works. There's a lot of people, we live in a very instantly gratification society, where people want, instant want everything. Okay, let's get it done, move on. They offer nothing to the solution. And then when people are trying to find a solution, they just criticize them because, they didn't figure it out right, or a mistake was made. But that's how it works. That's how things work.
Well, I will say, I think it sucks the way things work.
Well, it does suck, yes.
I think it sucks the way things work sometimes.
But that's it.
But we've done some of these things in record time this time. The vaccines were developed very quickly, turning around, getting the PPE out there. Testing, I already spoke to. We haven't done that as well as we could have.
Right.
But we have turned around things much quicker than we have in the past.
We're learning.
Yeah. And I will give you that, but I just want to add something on to what you said a few minutes ago, Dan. When we middle class people, and I'm putting myself in the middle class like I'm middle class, right? When the middle class think of things, and they have certain things, and those that are less fortunate don't. In this case, it's those less fortunate that have to suffer and have to die, and again, the word is that sucks. Now, the other day, I did hear one other piece of news. In fact, it was this morning, I believe, Dr. Anthony Fauci said that most people in this country are going to get COVID. At some point in time, you're going to get it. It's like you cannot avoid it. Dan, we know recently that you contracted it, and
I did everything right, and
you did everything right. Yeah, you did everything right. You got both your
however, but he
vaccine
also,
and boosted too, right?
Yes, but he also said that 95+% of people who are dying of it now are unvaccinated. And 5%, that other 5% consists mainly of people who have underlying other difficulties like autoimmune and other diseases. So even though you may get it, taking the precautions of the vaccines keeps you out of the hospital. Hospital level infections are 95% people unvaccinated. That says something.
So those that are double vaccinated and boosted, what if they said, well, shit, I've done all of this. I no longer want to wear a mask. If I'm going to get it, it's going to be less severe. Come on and get me. I'm not wearing a mask.
So I have something to say to that.
Come on. Come on with it, Dan. Come on with it, Dan.
Come on, Dan.
No, I understand the frustration because we're going into the third year here of this thing. And you don't know everybody's story. So if I may not get a severe case of it, but I can still carry it to somebody else, especially if I'm asymptomatic. What does that mean? So if I am near somebody who has an autoimmune disease where the vaccine just can't work as well because of the nature of how those affect the immune system, or some other underlying condition that makes the vaccine less effective, or children under 5 who can't get vaccinated yet, because we don't know if it's good for the very little children. I can give it to them. So one of my problems with how we work this thing presently in the country is we need to decide if it's about we or if it's about I. And I think there's too much I and not enough we. And that's my feeling. That's why I still wear a mask. Because to me, I think it's a civic duty to do that for my community. Because I know people who I know a couple people have had kidney transplants. And that means that they have to take, immune suppressant drugs. And they have to be very careful. And the people, their loved ones around them have to be even more careful to come in contact. And they've gotten the vaccines, but they've been told, by their own doctors that you're not going to be as well covered because of the way it interacts with the immunosuppressive drugs. So if I wear a mask and I get myself vaccinated and I take the care, I can protect other people in my community. And that's important.
And it is important.
Yeah.
I do see more and more people these days when I go out to, let's say, the supermarket or, stores like that without masks. Even a couple weeks ago, this is like maybe the second week of December, and Sonia and my wife and I started going to some indoor seating restaurants. Omicron was, just getting veered up, and we figured it might be safe. So we go in with our masks, and we're sitting there watching people come in without mask at all. Now, the rules are the signs on the door: please wear a mask when coming into this building, this business. But they were allowed to come in without a mask and eat and talk and everything like that. So I think that the effectiveness of the threats, and I appreciated what you said about I versus we. I think that there's a whole lot of I's going on, me going on, and not enough we's right now. But
Calvin, this whole thing, I've learned a lot about human nature during all this. And now we actually have a way to quantify it, the percentage of people who are vaccinated as opposed to the percentage are not vaccinated, and it's at least for me personally, has been an eye-opening experience to see that.
And I think that relates back to our topic, because one of the things the teachers are saying is, let's say a young child is being raised by a grandparent and they have some underlying health conditions. And then inadvertently, that child brings that disease back to the home. Now it affects many people. And I think that's part of their argument is we're trying to find a compromise so that it's not just about when the kids are in the building, but what do they take home with them?
Yeah.
And what does their family bring into the building? Because we're a community.
Yeah, exactly. Last point on this topic tonight is I recently heard that there's another variant that has been discovered. I don't think they've actually given it a popular name yet, but it's found in France. It has been found in France. And we know once it's found, it doesn't take long before it gets out. It's like, when is this going to end? Someone said this could be something that we have to live with for a while. It could be decades.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's going to end up, I think, like the flu or the common cold, that they got to come around every year. Yep. And it's those type of viruses, and we need to find how to mitigate it. And, the majority of the world is not vaccinated. So viruses always mutate. They have a very short replication cycle, so they can mutate much quicker than other species. So,
although Calvin, when you first said that, my first thought was well, that sucks too.
And
so add it to the suck list.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said they found one that the Omicron and the Delta actually combined. They called it what do you call it? Omadelta or something, Omata or something like that.
Ouch.
And they're concerned that these two are teaming up against us. So.
Man,
tag team.
What's a superhero when you need one, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
Man. Well, I want to thank you guys for this stimulating conversation tonight. And that's about all, y'all, for this segment of Diverse Talking Heads. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and we will see you on the next episode of Diverse Talking Heads.